Well, hello everyone. We've just ticked over to 5:30, so I think we'll start the exciting proceedings for this evening. I want to welcome everyone to this very exciting evening where we are able to virtually launch Dita's new book, which is called The Girl in the Lion's Mouth. I am going to be the host for tonight. I am Kate Gould, I'm Dita's granddaughter. And tonight we're very lucky to have a very generous range of speakers from Dita's family and her friends and really important people in her life. We'll start off the proceedings in a few moments. I wanted to say a few words, but before I do, I just want to go through just a few moments of Zoom etiquette. So you'll notice that you've all been put on mute, but the speakers, you can unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak, and I'll introduce you. You're welcome to have your camera on or off, however you like. If you are a speaker, please make sure your phone is on silent, and of course have a drink nearby so we can toast Dita. So I just wanted to say a few words and in terms of my feelings about the book and what Dita's achieved, and just to remind you that if you haven't purchased your book already, you can do so on Dita's fabulous website, which is ditagould.com, and then you can navigate to the menu shop or just ditagould.com/shop to buy your own copy. So as I said, I'm Dita's granddaughter, and so that makes me a third generation Holocaust survivor. And so for me as an adult, I guess I'm still processing how this history and legacy have affected me personally and how it's impacted the world. And that's why I think it's so very important to have stories and memories from those with first-hand lived experience of the Shoah, of the Holocaust. And I think that's what Dita's first granddaughter, my cousin Anna, has done so well. She has really captured Dita's voice, and together she and Dita, through a number of years really of writing, listening, reviewing, rewording, reordering and piecing together Dita's memories and her diary entries and her memorabilia even into a representation of what is such a big life. And doing so has helped me put together how those well-known stories that Dita tells of her survival really fit together, and they are really fleshed out into Dita's full Holocaust experience and how that's shaped who she is now, someone full of optimism and grit. So her story really represents more than just crucial testimony, but her perseverance and her determination to safely see her and her younger sister Liz evade capture while in hiding and safely reunite with their parents in the Holocaust. But more than that, it's also about how she then thrived in Melbourne, establishing a family, being an active part of the Jewish community, and finding independent success in business, all the way living by her optimistic attitude and her proactive approach to life. As she always says to me, if you don't ask, you don't get. I'm so honoured to help you launch what's such an impressive achievement, Dita, your book, A Girl in the Lion's Mouth. A huge mazel tov to you. And I'm very delighted to introduce our next speaker, Victor Purton from the Centre of Optimism now, to say a few more words.
Look, it's a delight. Thank you, Kate and Dita. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate today. You know, when you look at the third generation, Kate is a researcher in optimism and good feelings and helping people who suffered from brain injury to recover their optimism. You've got to say, Dita, you've created a great mission when you give them the same mission to your grandchildren. To everyone, the first time I met Dita, I actually wrote down what she said to me. And this is what Dita said to me the first time we met. I get up in the morning and smile and think, what good things can I do today? And I do it. Every day there is something good to do. Why would I think about anything that's bad? Anybody who wants to talk about something bad, I stay away. I'm never going to convince them. They don't want to know. And, you know, that epitome of getting up in the morning and wanting to do good and doing good, you know, is the greatness of an optimist, because optimism without action is meaningless. Optimism with action is fantastic. So Dita is one of our most honoured members of the Centre for Optimism. And I think I don't have to, again, summarise what Kate said. Kate put it better than I can do myself. But the definition of optimism is a belief that things will work out in the end. And if things haven't worked out, it's not the end. And that's what Dita's book is about. It's this persistence. It's this belief that if you continue to act, things will turn out. And I think that's exemplified Dita's life. I think at this point, I'd like to toast both Kate's introduction and a big mazel tov to Dita for sharing not just her book with us, but the whole philosophy of living. This belief that when I get up in the morning, I think, what good things can I do today? And I do it. And here's to you, Dita.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
So my job now is to pass on to Tonya Komisarov.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kate, Victor. Dita Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
My story really starts 45 years ago, but the trigger was 18 years ago. So 45 years ago, Rabbi Sholem Gutnick stood under the chuppah with David and myself and told me something that came to pass, and Dita is a living testament to that. So Rabbi Sholem Gutnick said, and I didn't really understand it at the time, but he said, when God closes a door, he opens a window. And that door closed in 2002 during Israel's second intifada, which erupted at the end of September 2000 and was at the height of its fury in 2002. Now, my daughter, or our daughter, David and our daughter Lana, got engaged to an Israeli in December 2001, and she prepared for a Sukkot wedding in September 2002 in Israel. Not one of our friends, David and I, all of whom were avid travellers, came. Even those who were in neighbouring countries like London or Italy, Yachassit to Melbourne's distance, they were too frightened to enter Israel. But the real pain at the time was my parents, my own parents' refusal to attend, despite their annual trips to Israel and Frankfurt, where all their siblings lived. I was bereft. To have survived the Holocaust and have lived long enough to have the blessing to enjoy your first grandchild's wedding and not to attend was an anathema to me. And then God opened a window, and that window was Dita. In early 2002, Dita said she was coming, and she never demurred. She was resolute, she was steadfast, and she kept me sane about Lana's decision to hold a wedding where all her grandparents' relatives and all her fiancé's relatives lived. Dita's resolute steadfastness prevailed, so that my parents did turn up the day before the wedding. But Dita accompanied the bridal couple, not just to their wedding, but to their Sheva Brachot in Tiberias. And then she came not only to my second daughter, Renee's wedding in Israel, but accompanied Renee and the family on Renee's honeymoon to Venice and Montegrotto in Italy. Clearly by then it was 2000, very early, January 2005, and things had settled down with the Second Intifada. And that, therefore, Chevra, is a true friend, present and steadfast in the hard times. Thank you, Dita. I hope what goes around comes around, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Tanya. That's just beautifully said. So delighted now to move from one very long time friend of Dita's and the family, from Tanya, to introduce Robert Kaplan, who another one of Dita's highly esteemed friends. We've got an amazing professional group of speakers, from a lawyer now to a forensic psychiatrist. So I'd love to introduce Robert Kaplan to say a few words as well.
Thank you, Kate. And let me start off on a rather plaintive note for a forensic psychiatrist and historian. I am a prisoner. How did this occur? Well, about 10 years ago, I was giving a talk at the Holocaust Center. And every time I made a mistake, of course, the audience quickly corrected me, but that's what I expected. When I'd finished the talk, a blonde, attractive, smiling woman surged up to me, slid her arm through mine, and captured me. Her name, of course, was Dita, and I've been a very happy prisoner ever since then. Well, I also have the honor of playing a small part in Dita's book. And some years ago, we went through the story and I made a few suggestions. But there's one line that Dita gave me that has always stayed with me. After all was settling down and they were free, Dita went back to her village where she'd come from. And the beautiful line that summed up the emptiness came from her. The windows had no faces. And that was so poignant as a reminder of this emptiness in Jewish Europe that was left afterwards. You know, for a long time it's been held that everybody who survived the Holocaust and their family were expected to have massive problems. Well, of course, it was the most traumatic event in human history. But in fact, if you look at the research that's been done where else in Melbourne with its high percentage of Holocaust survivors, and what it's shown is a remarkable feature that has gone down to the third generation of survivors. What they've passed down is not all the negative things, all the traumas, all the illnesses. They come and go, but something quintessentially Jewish, and it's resilience. And when they look at these generations, that is the one factor they see that keeps going. Now, in another life, I'm a writer, and I have to express my deep envy, if not a little professional resentment, that Dita has been such a star with her first book. My first book was on doctors who kill, and it never had anywhere near the same attention. So I'd like to congratulate Dita. She's an inspiration. She's a friend. And she will always be somebody that stands our society, our Jewish community. And I'd like to end with a note that applies to Sigmund Freud. When he had his bar mitzvah, his father gave him a siddur, and in the cover, it's still around, he inscribed, "On the wings of the wind." Nothing I know sums up Dita's course as much as that. Thank you, Dita.
Thank you. I don't know if they can hear me.
Yes, we can, Dita. We've got one more speaker, and then I'll pass to you, Dita, and we'll then have, after you speak, Dita, and a few you'll read some parts of your book, then we'll have a few question and answer sessions. So we've got a few prepared, but if you have some burning questions, you'll have a chance to ask those as well. And I really, resonated with what you said, Robert, about the impact of the third generation as not just holding the trauma, but taking the resilience and steadfastness as well. I can certainly relate to that. I can see Victor nodding away there as well, thumbs up. So we've got another speaker from our family, my uncle Gary, who is Dita's youngest son. Gary, I'll ask you to turn on your camera and your microphone, and we'd love to hear a few words from you as well.
Ah, I didn't know that. That's a nice surprise.
If we have Gary. If not, we might be able to come back to you, Gary, after the Q&A session. Okay, well, Dita, I think we'll hand over to you the
Make me the big now.
of the
Can
hour.
you be the bigger one on the screen?
You are, Dita. You are on our side.
Can they hear me?
We can hear you, Dita.
Okay, I would have liked to be bigger so I can be seen better, but
Yeah, you're on the full screen, Dita.
hi.
Hi, you're on the full screen.
Oh, not on mine. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Susie Line. That's wonderful. Well, I was asked to read something from the book, and my first instinct was to write something about my experience during the Holocaust. Then I reconsidered, because that part is very specific and you cannot take any of it out of context. In fact, every minute of that time was an hour, and every hour was a day. So although it's just, I didn't find that possible to express properly. So I decided to talk about something that many people don't acknowledge. What happened after we were liberated? Did people change, or did I have problems regarding that? And I want to explain to you with a few words what's in the book. Chapter 10 is a problem at school. Before the war, I had gone to 2 Jewish schools, one in my small hometown in Hungary, the other in Budapest. After the Holocaust, there were no Jewish schools left, so I resumed schooling in a state school. All was well, except for physical education classes. The sports teacher in our beautiful gymnasium kept constantly moving me on, saying, "Make room for people who can do it," shaming me in front of the other pupils. I got the message and stood apart, knowing her behavior was motivated by hatred towards me as a Jewish girl. One day I was called into the headmaster's office and told to bring a parent the next day. When my father came with me, the headmaster told him that the sports teacher had made a complaint against me. We were told that on the Sunday, when the teacher was on the steps of the tram, I pushed her aside and took a seat ahead of her. Because of this, I was to be expelled. The headmaster should have known that no child could be seated when an adult stood on the tram. My father stated that he was with me on the tram, as I was 11 years old, but he realized that his word was not sufficient. He suggested the following: that we stand in front of the door till another teacher of mine would pass. I was in the choir, and soon my music teacher came by. When I identified her, she was invited into the office and told of the complaint. The little old teacher looked from me to the headmaster not this child. This child is always polite, helpful, and she will take on 2 voices if needed, she stated categorically. Then she asked the headmaster, don't you know she's a Jewish child? And that sports teacher belonged to the Arrow Cross Party. Needless to say, I was not expelled. The 2 months later, we moved back to my hometown of Dunaserdehey, where my mother asked every week for me to be excused from exercise classes. This continued for the rest of my school days. That teacher in Hungary had a profound effect on my sporting ability as a child, and without knowing it, I struggled to overcome the negative influence. But when my own children were young, I managed to. I will tell you about that later in the story. When we moved to Dunaserdehey, I had a teacher who contacted my main teacher, who contacted my parents and said that I needed extra tuition. The population spoke Hungarian, but Slovak was compulsory at school. Everyone was in the same situation, so I was surprised by this. But my father understood that this was a form of bribery. He just said, ask her how much. They agreed on a price, and he paid her privately. So now I will go back to showing you something that was written to me by one of my Christian girlfriends who was in my class. This was a book in which we used to write to each other, pupils, relatives, and so on, to remember in the future. She was written in Hungarian and did a beautiful drawing, very much like Norman Lindsay, actually. And in it, she said that she's very sorry that she has to break off our friendship because the teacher told her that unless she breaks up with the Jewish girl, she will fail her that year. So that was her goodbye to me in my booklet. And now I'm going to tell you that how this teacher impacted me in my school year, about further exercises. When we came to Australia, we used to meet in a park, and the boys and I used to throw balls to each other, and I could never catch a ball. It always went through my arm. I tried tennis in the land of tennis. Never did the ball connect with the racket. So I just opted out of anything like sporty. Then I had 3 sons who became sporty, not because of me, but their father. But I used to take them to skating. When we went horse riding, I sat in the car. One day up at Mount Buller, I placed them in their classes and found myself on the mountain in glorious sunshine. Looked up at the sky and realized that that teacher ruined my life. I thought, am I going to allow this? I enrolled in a class and never looked back. I became a fearless skier, took up tennis, which I play to this day, bowling, I exercise twice a week and do yoga and walk 5 kilometers a day now. So I am the winner. My optimism that I can do anything if I try has seen me through the rest of my life. And I give this as an example that no matter how difficult some things are at first, if you will it, it's no dream.
Thank you, Dita. And
Okay, here now.
definitely, yeah, you live that in your life, and that's how we see your positivity come through. So I think we have Gary on the line now, who will, as I said, my uncle, Dita's youngest son, to say a few words as well and celebrate Dita's book launch.
And Kate, can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you, Gary.
You've got me finally, thank you. Good evening all. Well, I don't know if I'm really in the position to speak after such eminent lawyers and doctors. I'll do my best. I've just put together a few words, and it's more related to the book than anything else. So I'll just read it to you if I may. So they say there is at least one book in everyone's life, yet to actually go about writing one is not as simple as it sounds. My mother has captured events spanning from her childhood and throughout her life. For those that love travel shows and the like, they can read about many of the travel journeys my mother took. My mother's recollections of these trips are amazing, including museums, restaurants, hotels, you name it, it's included, and many of you may experience the book as if you were travelling there also. I can't believe she remembered all the events and places. Capturing the war years and experiencing your thoughts and feelings, what one remembers, and also what chooses not to remember, is a struggle for all Holocaust survivors. Here, Mum shares some of her experiences and how they affected her. We are all shaped by our life experiences. Here it is clear these experiences shaped my mother's world and the choices she would make later in her life. I particularly like the relationship Mum had with her sister and the changes that existed through their lives, which unfortunately culminated in their later years with disagreement and distancing. This happens in many families. Nonetheless, with the help of others, my mother has found an understanding of how this may have occurred, and I believe has found some peace in all of this. One second. At my mother's 80th birthday, in my speech, I described my mother as a being like a train. It only goes in one direction, with one purpose: to reach its destination. My mother has boundless energy. She lives a very hectic life every day, always looking for more to do to fill her life with new experiences. This is well evidenced in her book. My mother was fortunate to travel overseas with her two granddaughters on a number of occasions. This is well written in her book also. They are really special experiences for her and my daughter and niece. I'm sure all grandparents would love to do this. You can share some of these experiences in her book. I'm very proud that my mother has done this for herself, for her family, and the many generations that follow, as they will be able to know something about her life in her own words. So all of you, treat yourself with buying this interesting book about life's journey and allow it to inspire you to write your own. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Absolutely, it is a book worth reading. I found I might be biased, but I was riveted throughout. I will now hand over the last section of today's exciting launch back to Victor, who is going to run a Q&A session with Dita with some questions from Emily Nadelman and Anne Lewin as well. And if you've got some questions bubbling away, you'll be able to ask them very shortly as well.
Thank you, Kate. And we've got 75 people online, Dita, so more than we could fit into a bookshop, I think. And we've got lots of questions, so you don't just need to ask questions. You could just put your hand up and throw a compliment as well. So actually, I'm going to ask the first question, Dita. What makes you so optimistic?
like my son said, I know no other way. I just have a clear path. I know that without my optimism, I could not have survived. Never for one moment did I think that I won't survive. I had to survive. So some days for various reasons. And my optimism carried me through. I could never cry for my mom. I could never expect some miracle to happen. I had to do it. And I knew I would.
Brilliant. Emily Nadelman, you had a question. You'll have to unmute, Emily.
Hi, Dita. As you know, I read your book cover to cover. I totally neglected my kids while I went from start to end. And you know how I felt about the book, and you certainly are a winner. And I think that we're all winners for knowing you too. And I'm sure that out of the 75 people on this Zoom, I'm sure 75 of us would have a Dita story, just like your friend did in Israel, where you've come through with the goods. So thank you so much, and Mazel Tov. And my question, I guess, was similar to Victor's, but I was wondering about your energy and optimism, but I'm also wondering, what is it in your life that you are most grateful for?
I should have been prepared for that. Without a question, it's my family that I'm the most grateful for. You know, when we survived, none of us thought that life will be normal again. And the second thing is, and you see that at the end of my book, I've always wanted to live in Israel, but it was not my fate to do so. But now, because of all the years of traveling there and all the organizations that I was involved in, I feel that I could live there. And last year I actually spent 5 weeks there, and I was living there and I made friends. And finally my dream came true. So I've had a full life. That's the things that I'm very grateful for.
Now, everyone, those of you experienced on Zoom, you'll see on the bottom there's a little button that says reactions. So don't hesitate to press on that and do hearts and applause and thumbs up. It's because there's 75 of us, we can't all shout out. And whoever else has got questions and comments, if you can just pop it in the comment box so that I can see you, because you're all over 3 screens, 75 people. So it's just wonderful. So Anne Lewin, can I call on you to make a comment and ask a question?
Hi. Dita, I want to say Mazel Tov again. We go back a long way and we've known each other for a long time, and you must have had a wonderful journey writing this book. But firstly, I'm going to say a comment and then I'm going to ask you a question. Your book, as we've discussed before, highlighted me, your amazing memory and details of events and the friendships that were formed. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, and the chapter in the book on Women Caring for Women and the organisation that we worked so hard on, where we supported the women and the children who were really severe victims of family violence in Israel. And we fundraised and we did wonderful things. And the main thing at the time, when there was denial about family violence in the Jewish community, we educated and we planted the seeds of the ramifications of family violence that goes through the trauma of all that occurs. And we actually, we were a group that managed to raise awareness, and we were way ahead of things that are occurring at the moment during the COVID virus. Now that you can see what's going through with family violence and trauma and lockdown and all that. And we were, you know, there was such a big denial, and with you and with all the other women who worked in Women Caring for Women, we're a wonderful group and we're able to raise a lot of money. we really highlighted the increase of family violence that was occurring. And through that, we were actually able to deviate and educate the community in Melbourne that is actually helping in our Melbourne community. And we branched off into Jewish Task Force Against Family Violence. So Dita, thank you for bringing back all those wonderful memories of all the functions we organised and the food that we had, and it was just wonderful. And the cookbook that we printed, and people are still asking us after so many years, are you going to print again? We'd love to, but unfortunately, you know, we just have to move on. But my question to you, Dita, is many people at this time in their lives choose to write their story, especially the Holocaust, the children of the Holocaust survivors. What was your aim in doing so? And did other people help you research and rekindle memories of what you went through? Because you go into a lot of detail in your book, and I found that fascinating. But I would like to know, I know you kept a diary, but during the Holocaust times, it was hard to keep a diary. Did you do a lot of research? How did you end up writing this book with all those episodes that happened to you? And what was, and my main thing was, what was your aim in writing the book?
I always knew that I have to put down the things that happened so it will never be forgotten. Lately, there have been a lot of books written by people who were told stories and they're not correct. I don't want any Holocaust denier to be able to use that to their own ends. Originally, it was going to be only about the Holocaust, and I remember everything vividly. I could draw you every place that I've been to. The culmination was just last year. I work for Courage to Care, and I speak to students in schools. And we found that this is very helpful regarding bullying in school. We put it to them. Are there bullies in your school? And of course they all say yes. And then they're told, so what do you do about it? And they say, well, what can we do? Nothing. They're all sitting there with their mobile phones. I said, use your phone, ring somebody. Don't look at it and don't accept this. When I opened the book, a few little notes fell out. And these are the notes that the children write to me after I've given my talk. What it meant to them to hear my story. And one of the last ones that I did before the COVID set in, one of the girls called out from the audience, have you written your book? So it's necessary. I find that that's absolutely necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant question, brilliant answer.
I did want to say something about our group, because there are a lot of people who know that I've worked tirelessly for charity. And in those days, we had very little money. In our group, Women Caring for Women, we made money from nothing. Somebody would say something to 10 people, it cost them $10, and we had $100 out of a nice afternoon where others just had a cup of tea. We played tennis in various people's places. Making of the book was a great excitement. One of my artists helped to give us 2 paintings, which we used, one on the cover and the other, both of them were auctioned. So it's not as if anybody couldn't do it, because we were such a great group. And we were all working for the same cause. So I'm very glad that I had that time with you, Anne, and Emily, your mother, and I could do anything to raise money. She'd just have the ideas and I'd just get in there and we'd do it.
Oh, what a wonderful question and answer. Eva Hordy, I think you wanted to say something.
Here I am.
Hi.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Dita. Well, of course, I read the book cover to cover. I sat down and I read it in 1.5 days, and that's because I had to cook for Les and do other things. But Dita asked me, what was it in the book that really resonated with you? And really, I said, it's your energy and generosity. So really what I find that, and personally knowing Dita, she is so insightful, a curious, pellucid person, always glinting with insights, with boundless energy, generous, and always helping wherever she sees the need. So all I can say from my personal experience, the world is lucky to have Dita in it.
Oh, aren't you gorgeous?
Tammy Cohen, can we call on you?
Hi, Dita. Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me today. What a wonderful achievement. And like I said in my message in the comments, you've been an incredible volunteer for the JNF Blue Box collecting for years and years, and we couldn't be more grateful. You're such an inspiration to so many, and for anyone that doesn't know, Dita received the national award, the Blue Box Collector Award for Australia this year for JNF Australia, and also the Victorian State Collector, and we just couldn't be prouder, and so very grateful for all your commitment, and congratulations on this book. It's wonderful. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you so much. That's lovely. I love coming into the office and saying hi to you, all you young people working hard.
Well, we miss seeing you face to face in the flesh. Hopefully this whole crazy time we're living in at the moment will end. And just what you said earlier about when you thought the Holocaust would never end, and it did. Well, I'm hoping that we can also soon see the side of this this crazy pandemic that we're going through.
Quite right.
Well, we're bubbling over. I can see Anne Sedgley drinking champagne there. So I hope we're all feeling like champagne. John Gould wanted to speak. John? Oh, John, where are you?
I'm unmuting.
Ah, good.
Good. Hi,
Wait till your mum comes back. She's just disappeared
yes,
for a moment.
Just getting another wine.
Well, let's all have another one too. And what champagne are you drinking? That must be good.
Yeah, I'm sure Mum can hear. So I'm sure the speaker's nice and loud.
Wait till she comes back so she can see you on screen.
Okay.
And there are a few other comments we're getting in the sidebar. So if you want to speak, just do a little speak or something so I can call you up too. That would be great. Here's Mum. John, go for it.
Okay, so for all of my life, Mum has been Mum. And I didn't really understand her impact on people until 20 years ago in 1999, just before the year 2000 bug came. My brother and I have a telephone company that installs phone systems, and we got the contract to install a new telephone system at Beth Weitzman. My job in that project was to go to every single office. I think there were 26 different organisations within Beth Weitzman, and work out who sits where, what their names are, extension numbers, all the technical stuff. And so I spent 2 or 3 weeks in that building, going from JNF, to UIA, to UJEB, to every organisation. I would come in and I would walk into a new office and I'd say, hello, my name's John Gould. I'm here to install the telephone system. And they would say, oh, you're Dita's son. And of the 26 organisations in Beth Weitzman, all 26 organisations had something to tell me about the impact that my mother had had on them.
Oh,
So,
told me this.
So what Tonya said about the wedding and my mum's determination to go there was all talking about the same thing. My mother is an incredible Zionist. She went to Israel every year during the Intifada to show that this doesn't stop you going and supporting Israel. And she works in every organisation in Beth Weitzman and others, Women Caring for Women's Not There, and it's her support of Israel. And of course that has an impact on her children and her family and everyone around her. She's the most unfailing Zionist I know and have met, and I went to Beitar, and people who know what Beitar is know we're pretty staunch Zionists, and she puts them all to shame. So there's plenty in the book besides that, but that's just one of the things I'd point out about my mother. She's a big supporter of Israel. And congratulations, Mum, for your book, and I hope everyone here enjoys it.
Well, Dita, you must be proud of your sons.
Yes, they also feel very well towards charity, and I'm very proud of them. And also, I want them to be honest people, because that's the most important thing in life.
Now, Jackie wanted to say something.
Hi, Dita.
Oh, Jackie.
Well, I wanted to say that I joined, sorry?
You're the only one who calls me Dita.
My Dita, I joined Jane about 3 years ago, and Dita was one of the first people. I think she created the word Zoom because she zoomed into the office. She was so happy and willing to assist me. I sort of got thrown in at the deep end, and it's sort of an area where you can't really be taught. And she was so willing to share her knowledge and her connections and I just thought, you know, she didn't know me. And I thought that was the most unbelievable quality. And I have got the book and I've started it and I'm loving it. And my other thing that I wanted to say is that I have asked Dita, please, all the clothes that she doesn't like anymore, to please give to me, because she always looks absolutely beautiful. You know, you meet her and she's in a bowling kit and she looks stunning. And she's always beautifully groomed and made up, and it's just not normal. So, kol hakavod, well done, and thank you for your guidance and support in my role and with everything that you've done for me on a personal level.
All the South Africans are lovely.
That was just gorgeous, Jackie. Thank you. Now, our champagne girl, Anne, has a question. You have to come off mute, Anne. Oh, no, hang on.
Before she comes on, because John mentioned about Tonya, I want to tell you a little secret. When her first daughter, Lana, was going to get married, of course, we took the opportunity here in Australia to make her a pre-wedding party, and the proceeds were going to Women Caring for Women. So of course, it took place in Melbourne, and I sat next to her mother thinking we'll talk about how we'll go to the wedding. And only to hear that she said, oh, she's not intending to go to the wedding. And I said to her, why? Oh, she said, I don't feel so well. So I said to her, you know one thing, you can stay away from the wedding, but that will mean that you'll never be able to go and visit your sister in Israel. And I think that's why she came.
Wonderful.
Anne is unmuted. Anne, you had some questions.
Anne, long time no see.
Yes, that's right, Dita. I should have asked you this morning when we were walking. In the Steel Street house, you said there was a hidden door from the lounge that led into the study. What was the hidden door? How did that come about?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, I can't ask anybody else about
No,
your book.
maybe it was. It used in the kitchen. We had what used to be a bread cupboard, a small cupboard, but I didn't use it for bread. It had a lock on it, and I used to put lollies in there because I used to entertain very much. It was easier for everyone to come to me with a big garden and lots of toys that my parents used to bring home from overseas. And so I was always ready. Every Sunday, the place used to be full. And later on, my youngest son confessed that he knew how to pick the lock and have the bottom. That was the secret door, I think.
Right. I also wanted to ask a cheeky question. Are you still fasting every week for Tuesdays and Wednesdays?
Now, that was a period of time. I had a very difficult time where my grandchildren couldn't see me for 4.5 years because of a divorce. And I didn't know how to cope with it. So I went to a health farm and I took with me my niece who also needed help. And someone there really helped me. And he explained to me how this is something I cannot do much about, but when they grow up, they will change their attitude, and they did, thank God. And so at that place, we used to fast. You got no food, only drinks. It depended how long you stayed. We stayed only 4 days. And I found it no difficulty not to eat, because if you remember during the Holocaust, I used to say I'm not hungry, and I didn't eat. So I could do that, and I kept it up for quite a long time, and I felt very well.
Terrific. And my last comment that I loved in the book was your love for your father. That just shone right through the book, and I thought that was pretty wonderful.
Yes, everybody. I was definitely a daddy's girl.
Yeah, yes, you were.
Well, we've nearly gone the hour, and any actress or author has to leave them wanting more. And but I'd like each of you, the technology allows us to do something slightly different. So if you see the little button chat there, you see lots of people have left comments already, but you can just leave that last sentence because we're able to save all those comments, and Dita can keep them as a memoir. So I see, Louis, you're looking. So at the bottom there's chat. There's a little button called chat. And on the right-hand side, then you'll be able to type a message and just a thank you, or how wonderful, or as Tammy did, an entire essay. But just leave that last comment. Dita, you can just see the love. 75 people have gathered here today to celebrate your colour, as Jackie said, not just a model of elegance in looks, but the spirit that inspires each and every one of us. And I think when you read from the book, I think we all felt it to the depth of our heart. But I'd like to leave it to the granddaughter, who has followed in your spirit so strongly, to propose the toast and to leave us wanting more. Kate.
May I just say thank you so much to all of you for making this so special.
Thank you, Dita. You're special, and so it's obviously a special event in your honour. Everyone, if you can raise a glass to toast a l'chaim, a mazel tov, a cheers to Dita's amazing achievement of publishing her memoir, The Girl in the Lion's Mouth.
Mazel tov, Dita.
Oh, you learned something good today.
I did.
And I'd also like to extend a huge thanks of appreciation to our wonderful speakers, to Victor Purton, Tonya Komisarov, Robert Kaplan, my dad John, my uncle Gary, everyone who's asked questions and added their comments. It's really been a beautiful, rich way, even though we're not physically together, to at least be able to celebrate this fantastic achievement. If you haven't got your book already, you can buy it online and have it delivered by the post by Dita, however you can make it work. Her website is ditagould.com/shop will get you to the final place. And thank you for coming, and all your comments still coming through in the chat.
How wonderful. Thank you so much. My sunshine.
Thank you, Kate.
Shana tova.
Mazel tov.
Shana tova.
All the way.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Tanya. Hi, Tanya.
Oh.
We've got wild mic now. Anyone can speak.
No, that's Sabadovi.
Sabadovi.
Can you go to the top to the arrow? No.
Hi.
Over here.
Are you beautiful people?
Anyone else? Louis, why don't you say something?
Can we still say something?
Of course.
Because I didn't know how to get in. Now
You're in.
I'm in, okay. I just wanted to say that I've gone black. Can you see me?
It doesn't matter. We can hear you and we can just see your face. It's okay.
I just wanted to say two things about Dita. I've known Dita in the later part of her life. We met about 20 years ago. And I have a special part of generosity that nobody has mentioned. Dita was the most generous person I have ever known with her friends. Practically everybody that I know in Melbourne, I have met through Dita. So I have to acknowledge that. I came here later in my life, and as I say, most of the people I met through Dita. And the other thing I want to say is that, can you hear me?
Yes.
The other thing I want to say is that Dita has a talent for detail. So many people have mentioned that today. When she tells a story, when we're in company, I find it a terrible burden, a defect, because I say, Dita, I don't know where the story began because you're lost in the detail. But when I read the book, I found that it was extraordinary that talent of memory for detail brought the scene alive. And it was an extraordinary discovery, because what I found a defect when I'm talking to her was the talent of the book. An extraordinary literary discovery.
Thanks, Evelyn.
Anyone else, while we've got a few minutes, just to send a sentence or two, because we've probably all got to go off and cook dinner and things, but anyone else want to throw a sentence or two in? Meg, do you want to say anything? Meg?
We just both think you're such an inspiration and you're so positive, and we just love you very much. And the book was amazing, and you are just such an inspiration.
Here.
Louis, you wanted to say something?
I just said here, and I totally agree. We, a few weeks ago, heard about the book, and we contacted Dita. I tried to do it online, and I'm really good online. I lose everything. So we agreed to meet, and then we went for a walk, and Margot, you see here, could not keep up with her. She's just amazing. And you are 1 or 2 years older than I am. And Dita, that was just a fantastic book. We went home and we devoured it, the two of us, in less than 2 days. It was just amazing.
Well, I think, Dita, you're going to have to do another event. I was just thinking we could actually do an event with you and Kate talking about what makes an optimist. What do you think?
Actually, may I say, I do have another event. I do have another event from the Lamb Library, but if you want to do another one, I would be more than happy, because a lot of people must have missed today.
Oh, exactly. And lots of people wanted to say stuff, but with 75, we couldn't do it.
No.
Anyway, I think Kate and your family have done a fantastic job today. So
you certainly have. I can't be grateful enough to you.
Thanks. We probably better, Kate, what do you think? Will we formally close?
Yeah, we've made it to the hour. Thank you, Victor. You've done an amazing job of hosting our Q&A and being a delight. And yeah, Mazel Tov, Dita. Thank you everyone so much for coming along. We'll close off the session, and but you feel free to keep contacting Dita. I'm sure she'd love to hear more of your comments and questions.
I would like to endorse Victor's organization, because he is the ultimate optimist.
Second to you, Dita, second to you.
And a final also thank you to Renee and Emily for helping prepare all the invitations for the launch as well. That's been very, very helpful. And a huge apology from Anna Gould, who actually wrote the book with Dita, who couldn't be here tonight because she's unwell, but we have a recording for her so we can share that with her after today.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Love you all.
Bye, Dita.
I
love you.
Oh, Sinead, my darling neighbor.
Bye.
I'll see you
Bye,
soon.
See you, Dita. You know what I was tempted to say?
Stay safe.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
Hi, my fourth son. How are you?
I'm still hiding.
Good to see you, Joe.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Hi.